Well, I'll talk to the guys if they're around.
Yeah, they are. I'm going to walk into the locker room right now, and you can speak to the guys firsthand. Mr. President, can you hear me?
I can. You guys are really talented. I have great respect for hockey players. I'm a hockey fan. I love hockey. The talent, the skill that you have is crazy. And just go out and have a good time tonight. And I just want to wish you a lot of luck. You really are a skilled group of people. It's an honor to talk to you and get out there, and there's no pressure whatsoever.
I can tell you honestly, every person in here, players, staff, management, coaches, we are all proud Americans, and we want to represent our country the best way we can and do our best to bring in a win tonight. Thank you again on behalf of everybody.
You just go out and have a good time. You're going to win, and we love America, and we love you guys. We'll be watching tonight. Bring it on.
Thank you.
What a fucking strange time to be alive. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Jonny Says So. And tonight, as I'm recording this, the game is about to kick off. Team Canada versus Team America. And if it wasn't for the undertones of this would almost be a hilarious situation. President Donald Trump wishing Team America great against the future 51st state of Canada. Now, for a long time, it seemed as if he was just trolling, but as time goes on, more and more people are starting to agree that there might actually be something to this. You know, the first couple of times he mentioned it, it was sort of funny. You know, it was quite obvious that he was trolling Justin Trudeau, and maybe he is. But let's get into it. Let's check out one of the many, many times he has floated the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state.
Canada is going to be a very interesting situation because, we just don't need their product. And yet they survive off the fact that we do 95% of what they do. And Canada is just absolutely, I say it, and sometimes people smile and sometimes they say, great idea, but Canada, their taxes would come down greatly. Their security would go up greatly. Amazing thing.
Now that's what it's all about. When he said our security would go up greatly, this is one of the core issues that he's trying to push.
Things happen to Canada, and really Canada in this particular. Why would we pay $200 billion a year in subsidies to Canada when they're not a state? You do that.
All right, I gotta pause it again there. Now, if you've been watching my previous videos, you've probably gathered that I'm not a huge fan of the liberal establishment or the legacy media in both countries, in Canada and the United States. And full disclosure here, guys, if I was an American, I hands down would have voted for Trump in the last election. For reasons I've probably already gotten into. You know, my opposition to the COVID insanity, the military-industrial complex, my desire to see the war in Ukraine end. But I'm also a loyal Canadian citizen, and I gotta say, I don't like the idea. And I also think it's really dumb of him to suggest that America is subsidizing us when referring to the trade deficit. I mean, if you want to have a conversation about, Canada's contribution to NATO and the fact that we forget the southern border of Canada. That's a side issue, and it's almost a distraction. What this is all about is the northern border, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. But this whole business of them subsidizing us in relation to a trade deficit just isn't true. That doesn't mean they're subsidizing us. They are buying products that they need. And it's unfortunate that we have crippled ourselves with the last 10 years of Justin Trudeau. I think it's absolutely insane that we do more. It's easier for us to trade with America than it is to trade between the provinces. And that's a hard conversation that we as Canadians have to have. But as far as becoming the 51st state, I think most of us can agree that that's just not going to happen. Anyway, let's keep playing.
That for a state, but you don't do that for somebody else's country. So I think Canada is going to be a very serious contender to be our 51st state.
I don't think that's going to happen, but it's going to be interesting as he continues to push this. And my big opposition to getting back to tariffs, my big opposition to that is I'm a libertarian. I think that the less government involvement in the economy, the better. And I think a lot of Trump's base feels the same way. So I just feel like, a lot more of them should be pushing back on the tariffs that are going to hurt both of us. I want to bring you to somebody that I really admire. And by the way, guys, he's made a lot more sense than Trump during the COVID years. While Trump was arguing in the 2020 debates with Biden about who would be better at rushing the vaccine out or locking you down, Rand Paul was directly going up against Fauci on gain-of-function research. So I want to show you what he has to say about the tariffs. This is a true libertarian, guys.
Right now, tariffs against other foreign countries remain up in the air, and one Kentucky leader is hoping they don't go into effect. Earlier this week, the Trump administration chose to pause enacting tariffs against Mexico and Canada after President Donald Trump said he reached agreements with both nations' leaders. Both agreed to increase patrols at their respective borders in order to stop the flow of fentanyl and undocumented immigrants. President Trump said meetings are set within the next 30 days to determine whether to call off the tariffs, which Senator Rand Paul hopes will happen.
I think tariffs can be beneficial as a bargaining tool, but once enacted, they're simply another tax and not good for the economy. When you tax trade, you get less of it. When you tax trade, you get retaliation from other countries.
The Kentucky junior senator reiterated that imposing taxes are a sole power of Congress, not the president. He said he plans to propose legislation that would strip the president of that power and place it back in the legislative branch.
And there you have it, guys. Tariffs are just another tax, and it's going to hurt both of us. Now, Pierre Poilievre has come under criticism by some on the right, even by repeating Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney and Freeland's rhetoric about dollar-for-dollar tariffs. And it's looking like he's not afraid to go down that road. But at least he's talking about the alternatives, which are strengthening our military and not giving in to what Trump wants because we're capitulating to him, but because it's the right thing to do. I want to play you here a short clip of his recent Canada First rally. Let's go take a peek at that.
So let me spell out the possibilities for our American friends and speak directly to them. Option one, you can carry out an unprovoked attack on our economy. Your consumers will pay more and your workers will make less. Gas prices will skyrocket. You will turn a loyal friend into a resentful neighbor, forced to match tariff with tariff and to seek friends everywhere else. Both our economies will weaken, leaving less money for defense and security, and our enemies will grow stronger. Option one. Option two, we trade even more, and both our workers make more. Our consumers pay less. The resulting GDP boost allows Canada to further strengthen its border and up our military spending to 2% of GDP faster. We stop fentanyl, terrorists, supersonic missiles, and other threats. We team up against the unfair trading practices of other countries. Both countries, both America and Canada separately, will end up safer, stronger, and richer as a result. Oh, and there's something else. There's something else I'd like to say to our American friends. We've always loved you as our neighbors and friends. There is no country with whom we'd rather share a border, the longest undefended border in the world.
Now, he just hit the nail on the head there when he was talking about the largest undefended border in the world, which is what this all comes down to. And he's also in between a rock and a hard place because he's getting criticism from the right for, somehow being too much just like Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney in his dollar for dollar tariffs rhetoric, while he's also getting criticism from the left for being unpatriotic and not being part of Team Canada. And I want to play you an awesome rebuttal to that.
For months, you've said that Canada is broken. Now, in the wake of the tariff threats, of the threat of becoming the 51st state, do you still think that Canada is broken?
I think the Liberals have broken everything. They broke our housing market by doubling housing costs. They broke in the household budgets by raising carbon taxes and income taxes, with twice as many people lined up at food banks as there were before the Trudeau-Carney Liberals. They've broken our criminal justice system with catch and release that has allowed criminals to rampage through our streets, gun crime having doubled. They've broken families with the fentanyl crisis that they unleashed by legalizing hard drugs and leaving our borders open. We have more people dead of fentanyl after a decade of the Liberals than died fighting for Canada in the Second World War. So they broke a lot of things, and it is patriotic to point out what is broken so that you can fix it. I mean, Liberals, they're trying to gaslight Canadians into saying, if you point out any of the problems that they caused after 10 years in power, you're unpatriotic. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. Patriotism is about having an honest conversation about the enormous damage the Liberals did to this country. And by the way, I won't take any lessons on patriotism from Mark Carney, who took jobs and money out of Canada to put them in the States, in China, and in the Middle East. I won't take any lessons from the Liberals on patriotism after they have been lowering our flag and putting down our history for the last 10 years. Conservatives will put Canada first, and that means fixing what Liberals broke.
Very well said. Don't let anybody gaslight you into thinking that wanting to fix this country or admitting that we may have some serious problems that we need to address is akin to capitulating to Trump or wanting to become the 51st state. Now, earlier this week, Toronto Sun reporter Brian Lilly did an interview with Steve Bannon. Now, if you don't know who that is, he was at Breitbart for a time there, and he was a top advisor to Donald Trump in his first administration. Now, you can have your own feelings about this guy, and that's fine. He's a very controversial figure, but he also knows Trump very well, and he has some insights into what this might be about. I'm not going to play the whole video. I just want to play a short little excerpt from the middle here, and I'll leave a link to it in the description because I really do. It's worth checking out if you haven't seen it already. So let's get into that.
If you also look at the Chinese Communist Party, unrestricted warfare, the Chinese Communist Party has been at war with the United States since May of 1989. Xi said it, the People's War. They're doing it through cyber, they're doing it through political warfare, they're doing it through information warfare, they're doing economic
political interference in Canada.
Canada, you guys are much far. Look, as badly as we're infiltrated, Canada's actually worse. And Trudeau's exacerbated this. This is something the Canadian people got to wake up to. You're losing your sovereignty as you speak. That's why your crisis on your northern border. The irony in Canada, given everything through valor of arms and courage that you've defended, now what was always strategically your greatest, the thing you had greatest, which was your northern border and kind of the Arctic, now becomes your greatest exposure to actual losing territorial integrity and sovereignty, the Chinese Communist Party, which has already infiltrated Canada. Look at Huawei. Look at all the situations in Canada. They're at war just because, remember, in Chinese Communist Party doctrine, if they have to start like Sun Tzu, if they have to start shooting, they think the kinetic part, which has already started in Europe and Ukraine, the kinetic part of the war is where they don't want to take on the foreign devils, right? Because the foreign devils know how to man up and know how to fight. What they want to do is unrestricted warfare, is defeat the West even before any guns are fired. And they're quite far advanced in the United States, and I would argue they're farther advanced in Canada. So people sit there and go, well, we're not really at war. That's like people in Europe in 1930, in the summer of 1939, sitting there going, we're actually not at war. It's a beautiful summer here. the clouds of war were all over them. They just couldn't see over the horizon.
It was around 2010. I think it was President Hu back then was coming to Canada. He was going to visit then Prime Minister Stephen Harper.
And I'm going to pause it right there because, look, I've been very critical about how Justin Trudeau has walked us into this, but we can't deny Stephen Harper, pictured here, has quite the hand in this too. I mean, he has, when he signed FIPA, he essentially signed over access to our northern waters and a lot of our natural resources to Chinese corporations, which is a huge concern. And we are bound to this trade agreement for, it was 31 years from the time of signing, so we're in it for a couple more decades.
Harper. Official visit, things had not changed. Even the bipartisan consensus in Washington still hadn't changed towards China. It has now, and it has in Canada. Well, maybe not for Trudeau's Liberals. But I remember reading a piece where Hu said, before he left, I mean, this was clearly a planted message to send to Canada as he was coming for a visit, that they view themselves as an Arctic nation, and they believe that they get the resources in the Arctic. They have a very different vision of the future of the Arctic than Canada or the United States does. And it includes them pillaging it.
It includes them controlling it and controlling the territory of northern Canada. You're absolutely correct. This is not just something that came to President Trump out of nowhere. This is the aggressiveness of the Chinese Communist Party in the Arctic, geostrategically and for resources. And as a wake-up call, when they say the Arctic, they just don't mean the polar cap. They mean coming down, and you're going to lose. It's just quite simple. You're a Dominion nation. But in your alliance in the Dominion, is NATO going to come and help you? Is NATO that won't pay for themselves? Are they going to come and help you in the Arctic? The territorial integrity and sovereignty of Canada is going to be tested and lost in the northern provinces and around Canada. And he said it on a state visit. This was 14 years ago. And they've been laboring away long before then, but they've been laboring away since then, and they're a major Arctic power.
So,
and there it is, guys. That, I feel, is the true motivation behind this 51st state rhetoric. I mean, think about it. It was right around this time when he started trolling Trudeau about the 51st state idea. He also started making, honestly, concerning comments about Panama and Greenland. Now, and it all goes back to my comments about libertarianism and the tariffs. Threatening to annex your neighbors and your closest allies doesn't really follow the non-aggression principle down, does it? And I'm hoping we could work this all out through diplomacy. Now, Donald Trump fancies himself as something of a deal maker, so it'll be really interesting to see what he actually wants out of this. If I had to guess, I would say at the very least, we're going to end up with a couple of American military bases in our northernmost regions of the country, and a lot of people thinking that we somehow won. And as for the entire country becoming the 51st state, I just don't see it happening, to be quite honest with you. Number one, I don't think the Americans want us. What I mean by that is, do you really think the Republican voting base would want a giant California just added to their numbers? I don't think so. And in that same breath, any Canadians who might think this is a good idea, I want you to consider that maybe we would not be given voting rights. It's not outside the realm of possibility. I mean, look at Puerto Rico. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is, even if you love Donald Trump, he's going to be gone in 4 years. And then we will be stuck with some establishment Republican or establishment Democrat. So I don't think any of us wants to see that. Anyways, guys, what are your thoughts in the comments? Do you want to be the 51st state? Because I'm saying, not going to fucking happen, bud. And that's my show for tonight, guys. As always, like and subscribe if you like what you heard here today. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.